Well, my last couple videos completely flopped. Time to make another sacrifice to the algorithm gods. Superman is the big new movie everyone's talking about, and for good reason. It's a new take on the most popular character of all time, and it's the beginning of a reboot for a new DC universe. Sort of. But does it succeed in taking the Man of Steel to the big screen? Yeah, I would say it does. When it was announced that James Gunn would be spearheading this new Superman film, a lot of people, including me, got very excited. And the more we saw of the film, the more anticipation we had. James Gunn understands the appeal of Superman and why he is one of the best superheroes ever. Now, for the visuals, the directing itself, one of my biggest pet peeves is when superhero movies try to hide the fact that they're based on comic books by making them gritty and realistic. The X-Men movies did this all the time, and even the new Batman stuff, which is great, would just change the name of characters to make them less silly. James Gunn brings the world of comic books to life. The colors pop, and the screen is filled with all these dynamic characters and silly outfits, but it always looks good. He translates it in a way so that instead of looking silly, it looks slick. Instead of trying to downplay the crazier things that tend to come with the genre, James Gunn leans into them, making it look like a comic book come to life. And it doesn't shy away from any of the things that other filmmakers might be scared to embrace and with the fear of looking silly. I'm so glad that comic book movies are at a point where we can embrace comic book silliness and some of the more wild ideals that they take and embrace them instead of trying to hide their true nature. And this is something that this movie exceeds at. Although, one thing I will say, the lighting is kind of stagnant. It's not a style for everyone, and sometimes the constant in your face brightness and directing can get a little overbearing, but I liked it. Now, this movie also really impressed me with its writing. It's not the best written superhero movie in the world, but for all the plot lines and characters it has to introduce, it does a shockingly good job at managing them all. This movie not only has to introduce you to a new version of Superman, but also a new version of this world that we will be getting lots of other movies and shows for in the future. Think back to how the MCU did it back in the day. They made individual films for each character to establish them, and then, after all those characters were established, then they had their big crossover event. This movie just says, fuck that. Superman's origin story is skipped entirely. Most people know it already. Lex Luthor is already established as someone who hates Superman with all his core, and there are lots of other superheroes and monsters that just kind of exist. They don't have an explanation and they don't need one. I feel like a lesser film could very easily fumble all this up and make it confusing for the viewer. But James Gunn knows what information is necessary for the viewers to know and what isn't. You don't need to know Mr. Terrific's origin story or his personal life. All you need to know is that he's a superhero, he uses technology, and he just kind of exists in this world. This is a world where the craziest shit is just kind of par for the course. And once you get on that level of understanding, you really just kind of embrace and have fun with these things. And the fact that James Gunn can do that with all these characters, most of which aren't even popular by comic book standards, just really shows how well he can introduce these ideals in a way that's accessible for every audience member to keep up with. Although I must admit, these plot points are surprisingly easy to understand, but that doesn't mean that they're easy to keep track of. There are so many situations that are going on in this movie, and sometimes it feels like the movie itself can get distracted. At one point during the climax, there were like three giant threats going on at the same time. And at some parts, it kind of felt like one given one was being forgotten for whichever one was being focused on that scene. It's a situation that's easy to fall into when you just have a lot of things going on in your movie. And I can't say this one does it perfectly, but it does a good job at maintaining your interest and your understanding throughout all these different situations that are going on throughout the movie. Apart from that, this movie just really understands what makes Superman a great character, and it's nice to finally see that represented on the big screen. The appeal of Superman is that he is an unabashedly good and wholesome person, even if that's deemed kind of uncool in modern society. He will always be doing the right thing, and he'll be nice about it. And that's represented very well here. They show that Superman can be put under pressure, and sometimes he can doubt himself, but he'll always do the right thing. I really like this version of Lex Luthor. They definitely got the pure hatred for Superman. Although, one thing I am disappointed in is that in the comics, one of the big reasons why Lex Luthor hates Superman is because he's a billionaire, one of the richest people in the world, and the larger society kind of bends the knee to him. But Superman is here, and he is just doing the right thing, and he really doesn't care what Lex Luthor says or how much money he has. And that's the thing that Lex Luthor can't stand about Superman. And to me, it's that dynamic between Lex representing a corrupt billionaire and Superman being the one thing he can't control. That's always been the most interesting dynamic of their rivalry to me. And in this one, Lex Luthor is just kind of jealous because Superman's more powerful, which is certainly an aspect of it, but I feel like we missed a lot of potential with the whole capitalist wants to control everything route. That said, Superman is a really, really good movie. I am so happy that this came out because I really feel like the superhero genre might be getting back on track thanks to James Gunn and DC. I love Marvel, but I mean, if these are the types of films they keep making, then Marvel might be cooked because this is peak right here. Anyway, I'm going to give Superman an 8.5 out of 10.